got Melissa Murillo joining me from Spirion, and we're going to be talking about starting over after you lose a job, which I think is a super important topic. Melissa, thank you for joining me.
Thanks so much for having me.
Yeah, so anyone joining us, if you have any comments or questions, please put them in the chat. We would love to hear just why you tuned in for this topic and what's going on with you. But Melissa, when I reached out about you coming on LinkedIn Live, right? Why did you pick this topic?
So I really chose this topic because it doesn't get talked about. People hear about losing a job or getting fired, and it's taboo. It's a dirty word. It's shameful. And people don't like to talk about it. It can shake your confidence, and it's very, very scary. And this didn't happen to me during COVID. I was very lucky to actually change jobs and get a promotion during COVID. But it doesn't change the fact that I went through it, and I think it's important to share my experience with other people who may be going through it but feel alone, even though they're not.
Yeah, well, and a lot of people go through it, right? And nobody talks about it because it's a thing that you don't talk about, right? And so, but it's a real thing that happens. And I think the most important part is like the confidence, right? Building up the confidence all over again, because you need that. You need that going into interviews. You need that going just to continue on with your journey when something doesn't work out. And, it could be maybe you left because things didn't work out. It could be a combination of factors. You never know why something exactly doesn't work out until you sort of dissect it and try to determine, what happened and why.
Yeah. And, my background and what I went to college for was marketing. And so all of the jobs that I had been going for were marketing. And it's funny because even in my marketing roles, I used to look at the sales side of the house and I was almost envious because I wanted to be doing what they were doing. But this was the career I'd chosen. So I continued on with marketing, and that's what all of my jobs and career progression had been about up until, even as little as 5 years ago. And I probably wasn't the best employee. And, if I'm being candid, I was dealing with a lot of my own demons, personal demons at the time. And so it was definitely a low point for me. And I had a friend say to me, it's not how far you fall, but it's how high you bounce back that really is the true testament of your character. Wow.
Yeah.
And let me tell you how much I've held on to that over the last several years. Because when I lost that job, to your point, Jen, I was shaken. And it wasn't the job market that it is now, where recruiters are reaching out left and right. And, you can throw a stone and find a company that's hiring. This was a time when it wasn't as easy to find jobs, especially at the same level I had been at. And I kept going out there and I was still looking for jobs, but at some point I had to provide, and I started driving Uber. And you want to try, you want to talk about humbling yourself. That's where I was. I was driving Uber, hunting for jobs. And I am huge on networking and connections and having people, because it was someone that I had worked with at a previous organization that said to me, I don't want you driving Uber. It is not safe. We are hiring for SDRs. It's not glamorous. It's not what you were doing before, and to be perfectly candid for you, it's probably a step back, but try it. I think you'd be great at it. And so, yeah, it was a pivotal point in my career. I had gone to school, gotten my master's, I'd worked my way up, and now I was starting over. Crap. What does that look like? What does that mean?
But I don't think there's nothing wrong with that, right? We're in different places throughout our lives. Like this idea that it has to be a ladder.
Mhm.
rather than a jungle gym, right? My career has always looked like a jungle gym. I started out in retail leadership and being a general manager for cigar bars before I became an individual contributor. And like my career's always kind of looked like that, but like being accepting of where you are in your life and where you want to go, I think is super important.
Mhm. And
So I'm sorry.
I was just going to say, so I gave it a try, and I started this as an SDR, and I loved it. I absolutely loved it. I loved everything about it. I loved the hunt. I loved, getting somebody on the phone and getting a yes. Um, and I excelled. And, within 6 months, the manager that we had was leaving, and I was tapped on the shoulder to apply for his position. And, 3 years later, here we are. It was really like dropping a fish in the water when I got into sales. It was like, oh, this is what I should have been doing for the majority of my career. And it stinks that it took me this long to get here, but I wouldn't change a thing about it because it has helped me become the person I am in my career and just in life.
Yeah. So we have a question here. I don't know if this is more of a question or more of a statement. Networking is difficult on LinkedIn when you reach out, personalized messages, personalized connection requests, and people don't reply. I think it depends on what it is you want, right? Like if you're looking to sell someone something, if you're going to go right for a pitch,
Mhm.
you're not going to necessarily get a good result. But if you're looking to actually network to get to know someone, I think if you've been insightful with why them,
Mhm.
then you'll get the results that you seek. And in this particular topic for a job hunt, like spending the time to get to know people, I think is really important. And then leveraging your network, right? I think is something you also mentioned, but I think there's a lot of power in really building those relationships with the people that you're meeting.
Absolutely. And, one of the things that I did early in my career, especially when I was trying to build a network of, sales leaders that I really wanted to emulate, was I would look at the publications that were coming out, the 20 sales leaders to follow, the top sales presenters to invite to your next company gathering. I would take those publications and I would go to each person's LinkedIn. I would write them a personalized note. Hey, congratulations. I saw you were just featured. I'm always looking for people that I can learn from, and I would love to have you be a part of my network. I don't think I've ever had anyone say no or not accept my request, because genuinely, that's all I wanted from them in return. I just wanted to see their content. I wanted to learn from them. Um, and then, ask questions regarding their content. Start that two-way dialogue. You can actually develop relationships with people from all over the world, the country, just by doing that sort of outreach. So, absolutely just put yourself out there. And I think that's a big takeaway from this too, is just don't be afraid to put yourself out there.
Yeah, and 100% agree. I think that's how we got connected. I'm pretty sure you were on a list and I reached out to you, like one of those top women in sales lists. And I'm like, congrats. And I'm trying to meet more women in sales, right? And I'm pretty sure that's how we got initially connected.
Mm-hmm. And we've
But
stayed in touch for years now.
yeah, no, but between Girls Club, the Sales Hacker, I think, and the idea that we're both local, right?
Mm-hmm.
I've been trying to find time for lunch, and that we haven't met face to face other than like at Validity that one time.
Mm-hmm.
Is kind of funny, but it's about the people that you build those connections with. I think is the important thing. So let me ask you a question. So someone loses their job or someone decides that they need to move on to something else, and many times they'll suffer that hit of confidence. What
Mm-hmm.
are some tips that you would recommend for boosting that confidence back up?
Sure. One thing that I am really big on is interview skills. Um, you would not believe how many people come in unprepared for an interview. Um, and it's things that are so simple. Do your research for the company. Yes, a lot of interviews are virtual now. It still doesn't mean you should show up in a ball cap and a t-shirt. And yes, these are all real things that I've seen happen. Um, showing up 20 minutes late for an interview. These shouldn't be things that you would have to tell someone, but they are. And understand the company that you're applying for, and maybe do some role play with a friend. Or get books. There are books of sample interview questions and what the interviewer is trying to garner from each specific question. So there are ways to really prepare for an interview so that you feel confident walking in and know that you have the answers at the ready to be successful. The other big thing I would say, put your phone away. Turn it off, as a matter of fact. I think our culture is too ingrained to have their phone in their hands when they walk into an interview. They set it on the table. Just turn it off and stick it in your purse, or turn it off and stick it in your pocket. Don't make it, your interview is your number one priority. So those would be kind of my tips.
Yeah. And then, yeah, I would say have your stories prepared, for those behavioral questions, right?
Mm-hmm.
Specific examples. And I mean, they're going to ask pretty typical questions. So having sort of your sample of stories like prepared already makes it just an easier process. So Lisa here says, I was forced to resign after working at my employer for over 12 years. My boss and I were just disagreeing on everything. What is the best way to explain in the interview why you left?
And I think there's ways to be very tactical about how you answer those questions without, saying anything negative about your employer, simply stating that, the direction that I wanted to take my team, or the direction that I saw my career headed, wasn't, something I realized I was going to be able to do with my current organization, or I had kind of reached my cap in where I was able to move and grow within the organization. I think phrasing it in a way to where it's more about you and less about your previous organization or your goals and your aspirations and where you want to go is really the best approach to take. Would be my opinion, Lisa.
No, and I agree. And I would think, after something doesn't work out, especially after 12 years, right? Because you invest a lot in that time. Taking time to think about the lessons that you learned from the experience and phrasing it as, okay, this is what I learned here, and and sharing that. What I love about this interview is that how much you're sharing, the vulnerability you shared, right? And sometimes that human connection is about that vulnerability and those lessons learned, and just being able to own that. Sometimes you weren't the best employee, sometimes we're not our best selves, and that's okay, as long as we learn and we grow and we adapt, and so that's okay. I think that's important. So yeah, so going back to confidence, right? What did you do to prepare yourself, like mentally? Like you're getting ready to go for an interview, you've prepped your questions, is there anything else that you would add to that?
Just remembering who you are and that you're a badass.
Yeah.
You're taking the steps to put yourself out there, own it. And I know some people hate this phrase, fake it till you make it, but it's gotten me through some serious situations where I didn't think I was good enough, because I deal with a lot of insecurities, and I think we all do. And when you do lose a job, it just, I don't want to say it validates your insecurities, but in my committee, in my head, it does.
Yeah.
So it definitely, can mess with you. But I just had to remind myself that I was good enough. And you know what? The people around me, my support system, they reminded me I was good enough. And eventually, as you know, I put one foot in front of the other and continued to do the hard work and showed up every day, you know, ready to play. My efforts were rewarded, and I was able to build my confidence through seeing my career grow and realizing that I was good enough. But that doesn't mean I still don't deal with my own insecurities. I still today feel like I'm not good enough. I'm going to get found out and they're going to fire me. I don't know if anybody else feels like that in the back of their mind 24/7, but I sure do. Even every time I've changed jobs or taken a promotion, they're going to find out I'm not as good as they think they are, as good as they think I am. Like, they're going to figure it out. And I think it's something that so many people struggle with, and again, don't talk about.
Yeah. No, I mean, I think people are becoming a little bit more vulnerable in that topic, and that it is talked about just a little bit more often, that imposter syndrome, or how to get over that imposter syndrome, and you know, spending the time to catalog your successes and what you've done well, and you know, different ways to boost that motivation, thinking about what makes you happy, and you know, what contributions you've made. I find you know, spending some time on gratitude and documenting, you know, what I'm grateful for helps me stay positive and motivated.
And I think you just hit on something else, Jen, which is, um, you know, staying in the present, staying thankful, um, and just remembering where we are in this moment, you know, and not getting ahead of ourselves. And you know, you talked about imposter syndrome. Lauren Bailey just did a great blog post on this with Girls Club. And I absolutely loved it and shared it because I swear it was speaking to me. Because I think we all deal with that. The other thing that you talked about is what makes you happy. And I didn't realize I wasn't happy in marketing until I wasn't in marketing anymore. You know, I could sit at my desk all day with headphones on and never talk to another person. And, you know, I didn't understand why I wasn't excelling at it and why I just wasn't, you know, that happy. And I wasn't passionate about it. It didn't feed my soul. And when I moved to sales, I found something that did. And all of a sudden I was passionate about it. And I think, you know, you hear it said a million times, you know, find something you love and you never work a day in your life. But I didn't believe it until I actually found something that I was good at. But it took me a long time to get here. And I think, you know, sometimes we get there quickly, sometimes we get there slowly, and it's, you know, everyone's own path.
Yeah, everyone's on their own journey, right? And yeah, I mean, taking the time to figure out the times that you were most engaged, that you were the happiest throughout your career, and what you were doing, and what were the specific things about it that made you happy or engaged, or what was it about it that energized you? And then thinking about, you know, what types of things you actually like, and whether there's any alignment there.
Mm-hmm.
I think is also super important.
For me, like coaching and working with people, you know, having employees that haven't worked for me in over a year that, you know, will still text me and say, hey, I'm leaving my last company. I got a promotion. I just wanted to say thank you. Or, hey, I just won SDR of the year. I couldn't have done it without you. And these are people that haven't worked for me in, you know, 6 months to a year. And that is why I do this. Because helping other people discover their love of sales is what gets me out of bed in the morning.
Is creating a legacy.
Mm-hmm.
And that's awesome. Christina says all day, every day keeps me hungry. So I think she's talking about, you know, just finding the right thing for you. Crystal says, very inspirational. Thank you. Lots of good insights. Well, thank you for joining us, Crystal and Christina. So You mentioned Girls Club. I have not read that blog post. I'll have to check it out. But it's a good moment to stop on Girls Club. So why do you mentor for Girls Club? You've done it for a while.
I have,
Tell me about that. The last generation just wrapped up.
it did. And by the way, congratulations on your nomination for Mentor of the Year.
Thank
That is
you. I was so
awesome.
surprised, but I mean, I love it just because it feels like I can help someone. I can just share
Mhm.
that little bit of stuff that I learned throughout my career and just allow them to get those lessons learned because I had hard lessons, right? We've all had hard lessons.
Yeah. And again, no one, I don't think anybody gets to where they are by themselves.
Mm-hmm.
Um, and one of the things I've always done whenever I've worked at an organization is I've always tried to find that one woman that I want to emulate, that is in a position I want to get to. And I reach out and I ask if they'll go to lunch and I'll pick their brain and, I'll start using them as a mentor and an advocate within the organization. Um, I'm just very blessed this time around. I work directly for, my mentor, but that has been huge for me. And Girls Club, was foundational in building that sales tribe. I was very, very blessed in my first year of leadership and was offered by my company to go through it as a mentee. And what an incredible opportunity. And I am forever grateful to my organization for investing in me, because it did so often. Leadership training is it's foregone. People just expect that, you were great at your job, so here's a team, now go lead. And I think it's wonderful that Lauren Bailey recognized the need in the marketplace for that, specifically for women who are completely underrepresented, in sales leadership. So, it was such an incredible program. I got a mentor and a friend that I still talk to regularly. And so when I had the opportunity to mentor myself, it was a no-brainer to give back and be a part. And my God, was it an experience during COVID, and having my mentee lose her job, because she worked for an events company in New York City, and events were shut down.
Mm-hmm.
So having to walk through, that with someone else. And the one thing I would say about losing a job is I don't regret it for a second, because my experience can now help someone else. Had I not have gone through that, I wouldn't be able to relate to somebody else going through the same thing. So I always try to take my experiences, good or bad, and try to figure out how to help somebody else with them. So my point of that was being able to use that life experience to help my mentee last year as she was going through Girls Club and lost her job. So I really think it goes full circle. We get back what we put in. And I think that's true in your career as you're building your network, and in life in general. Who's going to be there to pick you up when you fall? Because it's not all good times. There are hard times, and you don't get through those alone.
No, I agree 100%. I mean, I've found, especially during the pandemic, like the community, right? There's the sales hacker community, the Girls Club community. There's all these people that if you take the time to ask, people will
Mhm.
rise and help you. Ironically, my mentee lost her job during COVID too,
Mhm.
and being able to help her through that process and through some of those difficult moments, and interviewing for that next role and all of that, you know, helped me be better at what I was doing as well, and you get a lot out of just giving. And I think that's not only true in leadership, but in sales and relationship building. It's, to give. So I
Absolutely.
think that's awesome. Thank you for sharing
Absolutely.
that.
Yeah.
So we're at 12:25. This is a nice conversation. Any other thoughts you'd want to leave everyone with when it comes to starting over?
You're worth taking the risks. Figure out what makes you happy and just do it. If you're at a pivotal point where you're trying to figure out what your next move is, just remember, you don't have to take the first offer that comes along. Your interviews are just as much about you finding a place where you can build your roots as it is the other way around. So don't be afraid to turn down jobs too that aren't the fit that's going to be good for you. Because I think often we forget, like, I just need to take a job, but are we taking it for the right reasons? Because that, I think, is what is going to ultimately lead to happiness. Because if I didn't love what I do, I couldn't put as much time and effort into it as I do. But I believe in my company. I believe what we stand for. And I believe in the people that I work with. And so I don't mind, putting 150% into my work because I know everybody else here is doing the exact same. So you have to find a company of like-minded people too.
Yeah, no, and I would 100% agree with that. I'd add that, success is how you define it.
Yes.
It's easy to look at other people and compare and judge yourself harshly and come up with this idea of what success should look like. But at the end of the day, success is what you make of it. And as long as you're happy, then whatever's going to work for you is going to work for you, and it doesn't necessarily have to be what you thought it was yesterday.
Mm-hmm. And sometimes things surprise you. So when I was starting out in my career, I'm not going to tell how long ago, but it was a while ago, when I started at Tech Data. And, there were these awards that went to, the women of the channel. And I saw the women at the organization that, these were the women I wanted to be someday, were the ones getting these awards. And, I remember just looking at them with such awe and admiration. And this past year, our PR person reached out to me and said, "Hey, I want to nominate you for this." It was for the women of the channel. And I actually said no. I wasn't going to share this, but now that I'm sharing it, I said no because I didn't think I was qualified enough. I didn't think I'd done enough to have earned it. I didn't think I was deserving. And it actually took our PR person and my boss sitting right next to her to go, "Melissa, apply. What are you doing? Just do it." And sure enough, this year I got the award, and what a pinnacle of my career to reach something that just to me was unattainable. And I still doubted myself when it was right in front of me. I still didn't think I was worthy. And it still took other women lifting me up to remind me that I was.
Well, you absolutely are. And we all are. We're all worthy of, achieving more and doing more and seeing ourselves the way a best friend would see us.
Yeah.
Right. It's easy for us to look in the mirror and find all the things wrong. Mm-hmm. But looking in the mirror and saying, you know what, I'm enough and I'm amazing. And these are some of the amazing things I've done.
Yeah.
Is harder for everyone. I think
especially for women, it's so hard for us to go, yeah, I did this. I'm awesome. And, after Lauren Bailey had written that blog post, I actually had gone back and I updated my resume just to have it fresh. And I went back and I looked at it and I was like, damn, that's, if that was someone else's resume, I would look at that and be impressed. But yet, without seeing it on paper, I don't necessarily think my accomplishments are anything to, get excited about. So, I think it is a constant reminder that we can do so much more than we give ourselves credit for.
That's a wonderful note to finish on at 12:30. Wow. So thank you so much for sharing your thoughts. I think, I was gonna just like say bye, peace out, and all this, but I had a ladies' happy hour a couple months back where Shannon Sellis, we were talking about finding your tribe,
Mhm.
and throughout the ladies' happy hour, she wrote down a lot of our words and then put it to a song, and I have it. And so I think I'm gonna share it. Shannon Sellis, who just got a new job during the pandemic and all of that, and has moved on in her career journey, who is also a mentee in Girls Club this year. I think we'll share her tune. But Melissa, thank you so much for joining me. Next week I've got Seth List, who's going to be talking about allyship and inclusion and diversity, and I think that's going to be a great conversation. I'm going to finish it up with a Shannon tune. So Shannon's not here, but I'll let her know.
Available. So it's kind of neat that this tribe thing is out there right now. But Jen, you asked me if I would come up with a song or a ditty, and things have been a lot's been going on for me, so I didn't get the chance. However, I was very inspired by what everyone wrote, everyone said, and by what the comments have been saying. And in the time that we've been talking, I actually wrote something. So forgive me for not having tried this out. This is fresh as of this hour.
You need us to give you a beat or something?
Please do not. No. I do not do well with a beat. Let's see how it works. Finding my tribe, we got a vibe. Who I'd want to subscribe to. Maybe hard to describe too. Little bits of my soul come together. We're birds of a feather. We're better this way. Go-getters who stay. Soul birds, we rise. We ride the highs and the lows, though. Where it leads, who knows? It's not just people like me, but those who inspire me, who come in and complete me. An older vision or a mini me. We go together to celebrate with the power to elevate. It feels so great, not like there's too much on my plate. So my tribe is anywhere I want to be, local or overseas. If you want to be in my tribe, come on over and find me.
Oh my God.
Oh my God.